Building on that, we now move from the regulatory enablers to the financial mechanisms, exploring how capital in the form of blended finance can mobilize climate capital into high impact sectors on the ground. As we all know, closing India's climate finance gap will require capital that is not just plentiful, but also patient, risk tolerant, and innovative. We'll hear from leading investors, practitioners about what has worked, what hasn't, and what it will take to move blended finance from pilot to mainstream and position India as a global leader in mobilizing blended capital for climate action. Before we move into panel discussion, we'll begin with a short segment that grounds us in real world experience, a case study presentation by FOUNT, showcasing how blended finance can be designed and implemented effectively on the ground. FOUNT has been at the forefront of structuring innovative blended finance vehicles across emerging markets. This presentation will highlight how FOUNT has leveraged blended finance structures to mobilize private capital for high impact, hard to finance sectors and the practical lessons that other fund managers can draw upon when designing similar models. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Shruti Ramesh, investment consultant at Good Fashion Fund, to share her insights.
Hi, everyone. I'm sure we're just gearing up for the next session, which is this really interesting blended finance panel, and also looking to hear from this great panel that's lined up. But before that, I would like to set the stage a little and talk about my firm's practical insights on our blended finance initiatives. I'm Shruti. I'm a chartered accountant and investment consultant with FOUNT, which is an impact investing firm based out of Amsterdam, Netherlands. Today is not going to be a technical deep dive. It's going to be more about telling you what's worked for us, our approaches, our lessons, and hopefully at the end of it all, there are some useful takeaways. So, this one? Great, okay. So at FOUNT, we work with one important objective, which is that any investment must be both commercially sound as well as systemically transformative. And that's something we have tried to do with each and every one of our funds that you see here today. Each of these are a demonstration vehicle. For example, BIX was a pioneer in pre-financing carbon credits in sub-Saharan Africa. Agree3 brought about a novel guarantee structure for de-risking sustainable agricultural finance. ODF, the Organic Development Fund, is providing working capital finance to small producers in low-income countries. And then, of course, there's the Good Fashion Fund, which itself operates in a very niche sector, which is the textile manufacturing supply chain, and we specifically target SMEs in this supply chain. So maybe if I can already start with a takeaway from all of FOUNT's years of experience, it is that the real value add of blended finance is not in the structure itself. It's more in the proof of concept that it creates for future investors in these markets. It's about using the financing today to catalyze financing for tomorrow. That said, when we were asked to talk about blended finance specifically, we were wondering what would be the best place to start. And I think FOUNT's own cornerstones are a good place to start with in terms of the way they embody the blended finance model. So of course, the first one, innovative funds. Yes, all of our funds are structures that have not been seen before and also showcase with proof that these structures can stand on their own feet. And then, of course, there's about the topic of strong partnerships. With respect to partnerships, I think we are an investment firm that's based out of Europe, which is thousands of miles away from many of our investees in Africa, in India, in Bangladesh, South America. So what really works for us in terms of successful investments is that we have strong local partnerships, advisors and stakeholders who really know the need of the hour, and we take their advice in terms of knowing what is the product that's actually required and then building from ground up. After that, of course, we have the value chain focus. We've seen funds that look at maybe only the financial angle, only the environmental angle, only the social angle. But what works is, and what is systemically transformative, is combining all these three and providing that holistic package to your investees. And last but not the least is it's about monetizable impact. Just 2 days back, I was reading the study about which IIM Indore had done, and which conclusively proved that investing in sustainability actually leads to profitability for businesses. And I think that's something FOUNT has been trying to say since 2013 when we were first incorporated. But yes, to show you that we actually do put our money where our mouth is, I would like to take you through one particular fund, which is the Good Fashion Fund. The Good Fashion Fund was set up in 2019, and we were looking specifically to finance equipments for textile manufacturers and SMEs specifically in this particular area. This, when we started, was the only impact fund in the world targeting this particular base. So Lourdes Foundation provided us concessional capital, which really helped us kickstart this initiative, followed by Mills Fabrica. And then this in turn led to catalyzing senior funding from Rabobank, all of which helped create the structure that Good Fashion Fund is today, along with providing a reasonable return. So just to appreciate the setup that we started this in, we were operating in a niche market, the textile industry. And then on top of that, we are also targeting niche investees, which is specifically SMEs in this textile industry. And add on top of all of that, another problem that we've all been facing in the last 5 years, which is the uncertainty of the pandemic. Now, the reason I say this is that despite all of this, what we have seen from the portfolio has been really encouraging. There have been a really strong credit record in the portfolio and absolutely no defaults. And again, the reason I emphasize this is because there is often a misconception that sustainability or sustainable finance equals or is synonymous with weaker credit, and that is absolutely not the case. I think even with the Good Fashion Fund itself, we have recently released 2 case studies on 2 of our portfolio companies. And what we have seen is, yes, there is specific environmental impact. There is 10,000 tons and odd of CO2 reduction in one of our investees. There is social impact where more and more women supervisors are rising up the hierarchy year by year. But what we have seen also is there are economic gains. One of our investees, SKML, which is based out of Coimbatore, has been able to show around $250,000 of savings annually just from the investment that GFF has made. And another one of our investees, Pratibha Syntex, which is based out of Indore, has seen around $700,000 of savings in the 3 years since investment. So the thing is that these kind of investments, if you make investments in sustainable efficiency for your investees, it actually improves financial resilience, and that is really encouraging to see. So we set up Good Fashion Fund 1. It's completed. It's successfully invested. We are done with our investment phase, and we are now looking towards setting up Good Fashion Fund 2. And of course, as with any second fund, we want to make it bigger, better. So it's going to be a $60 million fund, up to $5 million in financing. And then, so we are also increasing our geographic base, which is not just India and Bangladesh. We are looking at newer countries, Vietnam for now, and also other countries that we are open to exploring. And more importantly, it is going to be blended as well. There is junior funding, there is mezzanine funding, and there is senior funding. But what's important is that when we went back to the drawing table in order to actually set GFF2 up, we, of course, were thinking of what are our takeaways from the first fund, what worked for us, what did not work for us, how is it going to help us improve the way we approach the next fund. And I think a couple of key things popped out. The first one was, of course, that we were providing debt financing with the first fund. And we realized that just as we need blended finance, our investees too need more patient, more risk capital. And hence, we're going down the route of mezzanine financing for the second fund. So this is just to make sure that we can provide them with that patient, that risk capital, in order for them to expand without diluting their equity ownership. That was important. And the second learning maybe was that in blended finance, there's really not one size fits all. So we realized we had to really fine-tune our specific country approach. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're coming out with different products for each of the countries. For example, in Bangladesh, we're looking more at renewable energy investments and decarbonization initiatives. And yes, we are also doing a sharper climate and social focus with a specific mandated technical assistance facility for this particular solution. And the last thing would be maybe making our investees more regulation ready. I think that's one of the best gifts we can give them, because there's, especially in the field that we are operating, a lot of laws and regulations coming, especially for the customers of the investees that we invest in. And It always makes sense to be ready before the market, and that's what we're trying to do with them, making them regulation ready with the CSR Triple D, the HRDD, and all. So yeah, that was it, very short about the Good Fashion Fund. If I can maybe leave you with 3 key takeaways that FOUNT has had in not just the Good Fashion Fund, but with all of our experiences across all the investments that we have. The first thing is blended finance works best when it's maybe structured for the market and not structured around it. The second thing would be that strong partnerships are the real risk mitigant. For Good Fashion Fund, we saw that when buyers and suppliers and investors are sitting on the same table, the financing suddenly looks a lot less risky. And the third thing is that maybe that proof changes everything. When impact investing becomes commercially, like it becomes more commercially viable, when it's generating commercial returns, the market stops asking why blended and then goes around and says, why not? So yeah, that would be it for me today. That is our contact up on the screen. Me and my colleague Jayant are here today. Happy for you to reach out to us if you're curious about what we do, if you're interested in partnering. We are more than happy to talk to you. And maybe I can end with saying thanks to Varun and Ranjana for facilitating these conversations. Yeah.
Thank you, Shruti, for that insightful presentation.